Hey everybody, welcome. Video Game Corner. It's me, Jason, and this isn't a gaming video. This is a something that's been on my mind, and I'm going to tell you why. I've as the title says, painkillers, medicine, and disability. So. Thing is, I've been on, as you guys know, I'm on disability. I have severe Crohn's disease. I have a colostomy bag. I have a lot of problems from it. I've also had a heart attack, about almost 2 years ago. Thankfully, knock on wood, haven't had any problems with that since. As many times as I've thought I have, it's all been false alarms. Thankfully. Thank the great universe that we live in. Thank goodness. So after my surgery 3 years ago, before it I was having a lot of pain, a lot of problems. And then of course after the surgery the pain was still there. It wasn't as bad, but it was still really brutal. And it was all right in here where they cut the abscess out, because the abscess was pushing my upper stomach way out. And it's funny because I had lost 156 pounds, which I've put back on, but the pain has been there. And so the painkillers I was taking Norcos, which is kind of like Lortab. It's kind of like, it's a strong Vicodin type thing with some other stuff in it. Usually there's Tylenol in it, and sometimes they'll put codeine. It's didn't like that, but codeine makes me wired. I guess there's 1 out of every 100 people, codeine gives you a wired effect. The other 99 makes you not fall asleep. It's weird how medications work with different body types, different types of people. So the Norco wasn't working anymore. I mean, they had me on Dilaudid and morphine in the hospital. I mean, I have a big scar from here, from here down to the bottom of my stomach. And they opened me up. I had 7.5 hours of surgery. They were digging around and they were trying to get this abscess that was the size, it was that big around and that long, and it was slowly killing me. Over like 15 years it was growing in there. And so they got it out. I was on the, and they ended up, the painkillers just weren't working, and I was in horrible pain. And I remember my dad has been on methadone for, at the time, 10 years. He's been on like 13, 14 years, and it's around 10 years. And in the past, when my back used to bother me, I'd take like 1 methadone and it would last me the entire day. Because I didn't want to just go and get a prescription for like Lortab or Norco or something. I was like, just give me 1 methadone and it lasts. And you wouldn't have that dirty, icky feeling the next day. Methadone's a really interesting drug. It's what they use to wean people off of other medications. Other painkillers. People who get addicted to painkillers or are so dependent on them they can't get off, they use methadone to take them off. Or heroin addicts, they give them the liquid methadone in the cup. But these were pill form. It's a painkiller. That's a lot of people don't always know, because you hear about methadone clinics. But for people like me and my father, who has a fused neck by a doctor that they've nicknamed the Butcher and has like over 1,000 lawsuits in Nevada. Yeah, so he got messed up, and he couldn't even sue the guy because the guy ran. Yeah. So if you ever see a Dr. D'Ambrosio working on your spine, don't do it. That's the guy. And if you're in Las Vegas and a Dr. Stephen Rhodes wants to put a stent in you, don't do it. He's the one that killed my mother by putting a stent in her and ripped her artery and then went on vacation. So don't do it. Say, I want someone else, please. I'd rather not die today or have my neck destroyed. So I've been taking methadone for like 3 years, and it works great. It makes me feel leveled out. I don't feel with these nasty withdrawals. I don't have any of that stuff that other painkillers do. It doesn't make me high. I haven't gotten high on a painkiller in like 4 years. I mean, they don't make me high anymore. They just barely kill the pain and level me out, and I go on with my merry way. The problem with methadone, taking it for 3 years, I found out recently, is that it starts to make your bones in your teeth weak. And then I had a tooth right over here break apart recently and fall and break out, and then the bottom of the tooth's still there, the root and everything. It's like the gums are there and it's kind of flat, and there's like a bone or a tooth or whatever they're made out of. It's like a tooth in there, and it's kind of got a couple little jagged pieces sticking up. And then I had a tooth back here that broke out half, the outer half, not the inner half's out. And my teeth always felt really twitchy, and I didn't know why. I thought it was just, maybe I'm not brushing enough or something. I don't know. I never had great teeth. I've always been real bad about taking care of my teeth. So my doctor says, well, yeah, he says, but yet I've never broken a bone, a regular bone. But that doesn't mean I can't. So he says, we should take you off the methadone and put you on something else. And I said, well, what are you going to put me on? He says, Dilaudid. And I'm like, okay, I've taken Dilaudid in the hospital through an IV, and it seemed to work pretty well. They always give me like 4 or 5 milligrams or 2 milligrams or 4 milligrams every 2 hours in the hospital, depending on how much pain I'm in. So I've taken that, and I was like, well, okay. And I've sat there in the hospital for like 3 days with it, giving it me the IV, and I don't feel any methadone withdrawals, so I thought it would be fine. My doctor says, well, most people that take it don't have any withdrawals. They just switch over, no problem. And I'm like, okay, because I don't do withdrawals. I will not do it. Withdrawals are I've been on withdrawals for like 2 days before in the past when I couldn't get my painkillers. This was like Norco, and it was pretty bad. Well, I found out my doctor didn't tell me everything, and I went ahead and did the switch, got it. The first day I felt a little bit of withdrawal, wasn't too bad. Second day started getting worse, and I was like really starting to feel miserable the second day. Third day I was done. I was sitting there. I was sleeping like 5 hours a night, and I couldn't sleep because I'd wake up and I'd be all antsy and irritable, and I was sweating. Oh my God, the sweat coming out of me. And I was also, you could smell like a medicine smell on my skin, so I was taking showers, just like 2 showers a day, and then I would sit there and I just wouldn't want to do anything. So that's why I've been incognito. I mean, I was getting to where I was starting to get back into making videos and streaming almost every night, as much as possible. And this is what happened. And this is 3 weeks ago, or 2.5 weeks ago now. And I sat there, the third day I called my doctor's office, and I'm telling him what happened, and I'm talking to the medical assistant, and she's relaying it to, she goes and talks to the doctor, and she told me, and I said, I just want to go back on the methadone, and then we can just wean me off, and then we'll start taking something new. I'll just be in pain for a little bit, and we'll just wean me, I'll deal with it. She's like, okay, but we can't get you in. And the doctor can't, and I said, can he just make an exception? She says, I talked to him, he said no. And I'm like, I was mad. I told her, I said, she's like, yeah, I'm real sorry, because it's not her fault. She's just doing what she's told. I said, yeah, I feel like going down there and beating the shit out of him. That's what I told her. And she's like, well, that's not so bad. I said, I know. I said, I'm not going to do anything. She's like, it's the drug that's doing it. I said, yeah, but he's the one that gave me the drug, and he's the one that can fix it. And he's choosing to throw me under the bus right now because he didn't. And then, by the way, when she went and talked to him, he says, oh yeah, most people have withdrawals for about a week. He didn't tell me that, which is what also made me mad, is that he lied to me. He just didn't give me all the information. I'm sure some people do. So I get online and I start looking online to see what happens with people who do this. And everyone's saying 3, 4, 5 weeks of withdrawals, bad withdrawals, and you're sweating. I was having weird dreams, sweating, waking up in pools of sweat, freezing. oh man, it was my body, and then my brain. I started getting these electrical pulses shooting down. It'd start in my head and behind my eyes, and it would go through my body. It felt like I was getting electrocuted, like little pulses of electricity. And that was a weird feeling. So I sat there and I talked to my dad, and my mind that if you're coming off of methadone and you're going on Dilaudid, it's kind of dangerous to start taking methadone again. And it can also, mixing the drugs can also cause your respiratory to start failing, where you have to go to the hospital. If you don't, you can die. And I was like, oh man, maybe. I got the methadone and I just put it away. And I sat there for another week. So, about another week. So I sat there and then on day 10, I'm sitting there. I got up at 6:30 in the morning. I'd only slept like 5.5 hours. Or 6 hours maybe, I don't remember. It wasn't a full night's sleep. I got up, and about 5-6 hours later, I was just sitting on the couch barely moving. I was wrapped up in covers and freezing, and I had the air conditioner off, and it's hot outside and it's all warm in here, and I'm freezing. My heart just starts racing. It starts a little bit, and I kind of noticed it. And I've had that happen before, and it usually stops within a few, like a minute or two. It went gone nonstop for 20 minutes, and it went so hard I could feel like the pulsing in my head, like my head was getting slapped, And I was like this. I could just feel it. That's how hard it was being. I was like, oh my God, this is getting dangerous. It was a Sunday morning. So I called my wife, who's at work, and I told her, and she says, you should just call an ambulance, and just to be on the safe side, since you've had the heart attack. And I said, okay. So I call the ambulance, and I go out front, and I'm standing there, and I knew it wasn't a heart attack. I didn't think it was. It didn't feel like one, because I've had one. And the lady on the 911 operator on the phone, she says, well, we sent someone out. They're on their way. And like, everyone's so really close. It takes minutes to get here. She said, well, let's go ahead and count your heartbeat and find out what it is. And I, I counted my, the beats on my neck, and and then she says, okay, and then she said, I'll tell you when to stop. And when it was done, my heart rate was at 160 beats per minute. And this is me sitting on my ass. I should have been, on a treadmill getting 160 beats per minute, but I wasn't. So the ambulance gets here, I tell them what happened, they have me sit down, and I was also feeling really weak that day. But weakness is another one of them damn withdrawal side effects when you're switching these medications. So I went to the hospital, and when I got to the hospital, it dropped down to like 110, and then it got down to like 82 again. So I was okay. But they checked for a heart attack. They drew blood, and they wanted to make sure. Turns out I did not have a heart attack. I didn't think I did, but it turns out my potassium was low, which is another symptom of summer, they said. I said, well, I don't even go outside. I haven't been outside in like 2 weeks. I've been sitting there shaking. They said, well, it could have been with withdrawals because your body's just getting rid of all sorts of junk, and some of your nutrients are going to go with it. I said, okay. So I've been taking potassium, and I've been taking vitamins, and trying to keep everything normal. I've been feeling really good since. So a couple days later, I finally get on the phone with my dad. My dad, my niece and nephew, took my dad's phone and hid it. And he found it 3 days later, and I texted him and said, hey, I don't feel good right now, but this is what happened, I'm fine. It's just my potassium. So he calls me, and he says, hey, what's going on? And I was like, oh, did you get my text? He says, no. I said, well, I haven't had my phone today. I said, Dad, it's going to still be on there. He's 62, and why would he bother to look, right? He's like, well, just tell me. And I told him, and he's like, oh. He said, did you take any of the methadone? I said, no. They said, I was reading that, could cause respiratory. He's like, I said, but I'm miserable. I said, I don't know. I'm not. This is so difficult. And I even went down to, I had gone down to Rite Aid, and I was talking to this guy, Sam, that works down there, that I talked to. Everybody at my Rite Aid knows me. I mean, this is a small town. And then my pharmacist was taking the trash out, and he said something to Sam that he needed done. And I said, oh, hey. And I started talking to my pharmacist, and we talked for like 20, 30 minutes. And we were talking about, and he was telling me, yeah, he says, he can't give anything because I was picking up some Epsom salts to kind of just pull the dirt and crap out of my skin because I had been sweating and stuff, and so I could take a hot bath with it. And he was telling me that because there's also, like, I had asked the hospital when I was there. I said, is there drugs? I was reading that there's certain drugs that hospitals will give for withdrawals to help you deal with it. They don't do that here in Porterville. They're like, we don't do that here. We don't prescribe that. Nobody carries it. And I'm like, just freaking great. I'm like, you have to go to, they're like, you have to go to some sort of rehab center or detox center, and they can do that in one of the major cities around here. Meaning Bakersfield or Fresno, which is, I don't even have a car that'll make it out there. So that's out of my '74 Dodge van, and I wouldn't trust it. And I can't really drive it. I'm a mess. And it's summertime, and I'm just not doing well. So I was talking to my dad, like the day after that, and I was telling him about everything. And he said, "Did you take any of the methadone?" I said, "No, I'm afraid to touch it." He says, "Why don't you just try a half a pill? And then if something happens, go to the hospital, And I'm like, okay, screw it. Well, I thought about it. I said, well, I'll think about it. I got off the phone. I thought about it. Finally, I just couldn't stand more, so I took half a methadone, and the withdrawal started subsiding. And I was also reading that if you go off of if you're going off of one drug, and you're taking another one to replace it, and if you start taking the old drug, it causes some sort of double addiction. I'm sure it happens, but it didn't happen with me at all. It actually, everything got better. So I took the half a methadone. Then it had started to take the edge off. So like 40 minutes later, I took the other half, and then like the rest of it, I started leveling back out. And then I would take the Dilaudid so many hours later, and I was prescribed 3 Dilaudid 4 milligrams per day. And because I used to take 6 10 milligram methadone, so it's about the same according to them, even though they say the Dilaudid's stronger. But with me, it wasn't working because I was taking 4 and 5 a day to try to, and I was still having these horrible withdrawals, and they would kind of slow them down a bit. They kind of help. But it wasn't enough. It was not enough. I was still having these horrible withdrawals. So here I am, within one day, I went from taking 4 and 5 Dilaudid to taking, that day I took 1 whole methadone because I took the 2 halves. Then I took 2 Dilaudid, I took 1 and then 1 later. And then just before bed I took a half a methadone. And that's all I took. And that's in one day. And this was like 3-4 days ago. Then the second day I took 1 methadone in the morning, and then the 2 Dilaudid throughout the day, and then 1 methadone at night. And every day I was getting, my withdrawals were getting easier and easier, less and less. Then by the third day, I took 1 methadone, 1.5 Dilaudid, and a whole methadone. And then last night I took 1 methadone and 2 Dilaudid, and I was fine. And then today I've taken 1 methadone so far and 1 Dilaudid. And the Dilaudid, between the first methadone and the first Dilaudid, was usually about 4 to 5 hours. Today it was like 6.5 hours. I feel like everything's going less and less now, and I'm actually making a conscious effort. I don't want to be on the methadone anymore. And the reason why I'm telling you this, guys, is also because I'm explaining my absence. So so every time this happens, I get people asking me, "Are you okay?" And I haven't got that yet, but I know it's coming because I know you guys, some of you, worry about me, and I appreciate it. I do. So, yeah. So I actually feel very normal today. Yesterday I felt very normal. I was a little tired yesterday, but today I feel energetic and I feel normal. And I feel like the fact that I'm taking way less of everything is I'm starting to get my energy back. I'm starting to feel normal again, and I don't feel weak, and I don't feel icky. And the pain isn't that bad. So I'm wondering, I'm wondering if all these years I've been sitting there taking these methadone and resting, I'm wondering if I healed enough and the scar tissue's okay enough to where I don't feel too bad. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to keep weaning myself off of these painkillers over the next couple months. I mean, I'm not going to rush it. There's no need to. I figure if I can just take less and less. I'm going to go back on total methadone when I get to the doctor on the 1st. I'm going to say, just put me back. I'm going to tell them all what I just told you. I'm going to go back on total methadone, and I'm just going to start cutting it back. I'm just going to keep working it, cutting it back, and whatever I have extra, I'll just put away for a painful day down the road. So anything I have after I eventually get off of it completely, if I have some, or maybe I go down to like 1 or 2 pills a day, which would be a lot better than taking 6. Sometimes, some days I would take 8 because the pain would be bad. But I know that, you know, your body and the pain, the withdrawals and your pain and everything in your brain, it all goes hand in hand. And you can create pain, your mind can create pain that isn't necessarily there. So I've, you know, I'm beating this dependency. I don't like to use the word addiction, because it just sounds dirty. It sounds like, because, you know, I'm not having fun doing this. I figure addicts have a little bit more fun than I do, and they have a lot harder time getting off than I do. The painkiller is not off. Ha ha ha. That's what she said. Anyway, so I also just wanted to talk about like these medicines, the way the drug companies are set up. It's like the government's controlling everything now, and they make it so hard for people. And I'm one of those, let people do what they want. I don't care if somebody wants to smoke crack in their bathroom. I could give a shit. I don't care. And I had this pharmacist tell me once, he said, well, people are going to steal if we do that. And I was like, no, they're not. It's going to be cheap, and it's going to be over the counter. They're going to be able to buy their crack for affordable price instead of paying hundreds or thousands or whatever the hell they pay. I don't know. They're paying all this money. They're not going to be stealing. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen like it does. I mean, we have alcoholics all over the place. They're not going around stealing. And of course, you know, you're going to have people driving, but we got to have strict, I believe we have to have strict laws on people who do that kind of thing while they're driving. Especially if they hurt somebody or kill somebody. I mean, the reality is, they're doing it now. We're just, you know, kind of ignoring it. Well, you know, if we let them do that, then they're going to do it. And like, no, they're already doing it. And then I had somebody say, oh, they're going to come in and they're going to come in the hospital and abuse the hospital. I said, they already are. I said to a nurse once in a hospital, an ER when I was in there, I said, how many times have you got people coming here drug seeking? They said, well, yeah, all the time. I said, exactly. They're already doing it. May as well get the tax money out of it, right? Yeah. And sometimes natural selection is the best way to go, because natural selection will weed out a lot of these people. You know? And I don't think we should spend a lot of money on rehab centers. I think sometimes you just have to, you know, you make your bed. Sometimes you have to lie in it, you know. And it's not like, you know, I don't know, you know, and there's going to be programs like AA and NA and stuff people can do. It's just, I don't know, I just get sick of, and the only reason I say this is because I think the government tends to put their hand in our cookie jar a little too much, and it's getting worse and worse, and I see the signs. And I don't think it's any kind of great conspiracy. I think they've been doing it for a long time, and we just kind of just keep saying, okay, you're going to have a little bit more. And it's just bad. And then here's the thing about disability. I had a guy call me the other day, about a month or so ago. And he says, you know, you got all these medical bills. I said, well, I've had insurance. They say, well, it covered most of it, didn't cover everything. I was like, well, I said, I'm on disability. I said, I'm scraping by. I don't have a ton of extra money. Like when I order a new game, I buy like 2 or 3 new games a year. Otherwise, I get them discount or I trade for them or something. Or I wait for some sale to where they're like $5. I'll start buying them like 8 months before they come out, and I'll just pay a little bit every month. I never can afford to just go and buy a game, just outright go pay, drop $65. It's $65 with tax here, $65, you know, on a game. I can't do it. So, and all my money goes to rent and bills every month, and food and necessities, and then my wife's money, you know, goes to that, and, you know, we're comfortable, but we're not swimming in cash. Excuse me. We just bought I just bought a new gaming PC with our tax return money. So, and it's something we just kind of needed to kind of make so I could, you know, kind of work better with the channel and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't have all this money to pay these people. And he tries to lay some guilt trip on me. And I'm like, you don't even know me, man. Get out of here with that. You're some bill collector just doing your job, trying to get money any way you can. I said, if I don't have it, I don't have it. Your guilt trip isn't going to work. Try to say, I can't believe those people helped you. It's like, oh yeah, they were really helping me out of the kindness of their hearts. Charging me $45 for an aspirin and shit. It just blows my mind. My doctor who did my surgery charged me $1,800. And I was expecting him to charge me like 50 grand. And he's like, yeah, I can't do that. He charged me $1,800. But yet the hospital charged me for 3 weeks of lying in bed and not getting the medication when I needed it and laying there in pain for 3 weeks and being miserable and having the nurses give me attitude. $275,000. Go figure, huh? The doctor actually did good and the nurses just sat there and just acted like asses the whole time. And then the medical business is the only business where they give the customer, the patient, crappy customer service, and if you complain, you still have to pay. You still have to put up with it. You go and you go to you have an appointment. You go there and they're an hour late seeing you. Any other business, you go to a restaurant, your meal's free. You go to Walmart, they're going to offer you credit. They're going to do something for you. You know what a doctor says? I'm busy, too bad. Fuck you. You know? But if you cancel or you don't show up for an appointment or you're late, I'm going to charge you money. It's like, what? And they do this in the medical field. You go to a pharmacy and they fuck up. You know, or I had a pharmacist slam a window in my face because I said, no, I'll just wait. I said I'm disabled. He's like, just come inside, slam. And he had an attitude. It was at a CVS. I went inside and I said, you know, you don't treat customers that way. And the other pharmacist went ahead and filled it and calmed everybody down. I was mad. And I called the supervisor, and the supervisor says, well, I can give you a $25 gift card. And I said, well, why can't you just give me the medication for free? How are you still charging me? He says, oh, well, we legally can't do that. And I'm thinking, why? And it blows my mind that the medical industry is the only industry where they can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, and get away with it. Except for the lawsuits, of course. That's a whole different discussion. But I'm just talking about just the little things that you get at like a restaurant or a Walmart or any kind of regular business where it's not tolerated. But we tolerate it in the medical business. And then here's the other thing about disability that a lot of people don't realize. I started thinking about my $275 medical bill for just the hospital. In that time period, I had applied for disability. Now, the way it works, for those of you who don't know, when you apply for disability, they say your monthly pay starts from when you apply. If you get it. Let's say you get it a year later, 2 years later. I was lucky and got mine a year later, so they gave me a year or a couple years or however it worked because I had applied after I became disabled, and then they back paid me. They gave me like $14,000 back pay at the time. This was years ago, a few years ago, a couple years, I don't remember. So what happens is everything's retroactive. So it's just like unemployment. If you get unemployment and then you have to wait a month, they give you all those weeks back pay. Same thing. But you know what's not back paid? Insurance. You get Medicare right when you get approved. But you don't get that. That doesn't go into back pay. Because they don't want to have to, because they know damn well while you're waiting that year, 2 years, your medical bills are getting higher and higher. And if you're lucky, you know, you may be lucky and you just pay your bills as you go. Like it's just, you know, I go to the doctor visit, I pay whatever, and then I can afford my medications because my wife or whatever is supporting me. People are like, but you know, that's not usually the case. Usually the people on disability are going to the hospital because they're having all sorts of problems. So bills, bills, bills. So then all this money gets built up. And you can't go get insurance. You can't afford insurance. and you can't go get a job to get insurance because if you work, they're going to say, well, yeah, you're miserable, but you can work. Denied. Happened to my dad. He's got a screwed up neck. He shouldn't be working, but he has to. And he's miserable. He's in so much pain. He's having so many problems. But that's the way the system's set up, and it's messed up. And I really started thinking about it the other day, and I was like, man, it's just designed to screw people over and to not pay, because the government doesn't want to pay out all those medical bills with the Medicare. They don't want to do it. And these are, and granted, there are people that fake it, and those people should be prosecuted. But there's people like me and my father and other people I've met who really do need it. It's not. I'd love to go back to work. I wish I could, but I can't. And I probably never will be. But and it's my own problem I have to deal with. But anyway, think about it. Tell me what you guys think. I mean, is there somewhere where my logic is kind of funky? I mean, we'll discuss it, Discuss it in the comments. Let me know. Anyway, I'm back. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm going to keep pushing through. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. Bye. Okay.